cool. Okay, this is awesome. I am using the creator tool, which is different than there's the Facebook app, and I'm really enjoying this. There's way more tools on this than I thought I could, but I wanted to test and see if it works, see if this is running. Let me know what you guys are thinking. Okay, so I've got a topic for today, and today's actually we're going to be chatting about making amends. And today's catchy title, it's actually making a list doesn't make me feel better, but making amends does make me feel better. Okay, so I'm just going to try and pull this up on my phone, and it does. Cool. And you even see the title down below. Okay, hold on. I want to check and see. There it is. It's just me. So, okay, I'm just pulling up my comments. I've got my comments up and running. And we've got the broadcast. This is awesome. All right. Thank you so much for being patient with me, guys. I really appreciate that. Sorry. There we go. Paste. Awesome. All right. Thank you so much for hanging out. I really appreciate that. I'm just sending out the messages to let everybody know we're about to go live. I wanted to send a quick message about I'm doing something different. I'm using my phone to go live instead of actually using the computer. And so what I wanted to do was to test it out to see how it works in landscape mode and orientation mode. By doing it that way, what it allows me to do is to have an overlay down below. So this allows me extra flexibility because what I can do then is I can be out and about with just my phone and still have it look like this, which is kind of cool. I wasn't able to do that before with just the basic Facebook app, but this time we'll be able to do that anywhere I go. So I'm pretty stoked about that. I pulled it up on my phone as well so I can see what it looks like in landscape and orientation. And it scales, it adjusts, which is way more than I thought it would. The only thing I cannot do with this though is the type. The type in the background is not, it looks reversed. It's not the way I would think it would be. Like you think it would be right side forward. And so now we're not, I can either have the overlays or I can fix the type in the back. And so for this stream, I'm choosing to use the overlays. I also had a pre-video, like an intro video. I have the overlays during this show. Then at the end, there's an end video as well. And so these are all tools I wasn't able to use beforehand, but over the last week I've been playing around. And I think it's at a spot where it's actually pretty cool. Okay, so if you bear with me one more minute, I'm gonna share this to my wall. Great. All right. Post is shared. All right, we've got the messages sent out through the Facebook Messenger platform. I've got the comments pulled up so I can see. I was able to check out to make sure that nothing is, like the audio is good, the video is good, the signal strength. I have my phone plugged into the Ethernet cord, so I have a strong signal there. But jumping into today's topic, what matters is I wanted to talk about making amends. In the past episodes, we've talked about quite a few different things. Everything from like stress, like things that stress us out. We've talked about triggers, things that can push us over the limit, like things that can just set us off. We've looked at hitting rock bottom. Now that looks differently for each person. So it's a really fun video. It's actually one of my number one watched videos, hitting rock bottom. Other things we talked about was gratitude. We talked about community. I can't believe we've gone over a wide range of shows already. But today's episode, we are chatting about making amends. Okay, so I made some notes. So I'm going to jump back and forth between my notes and looking at you guys. But if we go in real quick, the title was meant to catch your eye. And it meant to say, making a list doesn't make us feel better, but making amends does make us feel better. Okay, so jumping into that, if I'm in a position where, like in recovery, when I first went to rehab, one of the things they had us do was make a list of all the people who we've harmed, like due to our addiction, due to our struggles, our alcoholism, our substance abuse. And making a list of all the people we harmed was one of the hardest things I had to do, because in the moment, in the heat of the addiction, in the heat of the alcoholism and the substance abuse, you're not really thinking of the impact of other people. You don't really think about what the decision, like the outcome of those decisions are. So in rehab, being asked to make a list of all the people we've harmed, like, it's a pretty big list. It's a pretty hard challenge. And when I thought I had it all finished, when I thought I had it all set up, after I had written down what I believed every person that I had harmed, when I had made a list of, at first I thought it was a list, make a list of all the things that I had done. No, it was like make a list of all the alcohol and the substance abuse that I had taken. And then the other parts were, well, what about the impact of the people? So when I made the first list, I thought, I'll just make a list of all the beer I drank, and then all the wine I drank, and all the shots I drank. And then they came back after I handed it in. They're like, no, that's actually not what you're supposed to do. You're also supposed to include the middle part of what happened because of all those. And I was like, oh man, I don't want to do that. And then they said, well, until you make that list, you're not able to move forward to the next step. The first step is to accept that there is a problem. And making that list of all the people we've harmed was one of the hardest things I ever had to do. And when I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to do it or if I wasn't able to move forward with it, they had told me, well, don't worry about it. Don't focus too much on what you have to do. Just focus on making the list itself. And once you've moved forward with that list, you're able to move forward and saying, here's a list of all the people I've harmed. And moving forward from that is going to be the next step, which will be make amends of all the people that you have harmed. So the first part was admitting, yes, you had a problem. The second part is make a list of all the people you've harmed. And then the third part is actually following through with that list that you've made. And it's like, holy cow, I don't know if I'm up for the task. And this was like the first week of rehab, thinking, what am I going to do? How am I going to be able to pull that off? And they said, well, don't focus on the end part. You're going to get there eventually. Everybody does. You're going to get to that outcome. But don't think about it right now. Just focus on the next part right in front of you, which is making that list. So making a list of all those we have harmed was one of the hardest things I had to do. But I wanted to be able to go and share that it is possible to make amends. It is possible to see through it. It got to a point for me that I started to realize that by making the list, I was afraid of, I was thinking of all the conversations I would have to have. And as I was adding someone's name to it, adding my mom's name, adding my family's name, adding my friends' names, all the people I disappointed, I began to realize that, holy cow, I'm going to have to eventually talk to them and say I'm sorry. And just writing it down became so gut-wrenching that I began to I would find everything else to get done. I would clean my room, I would do all my chores, I would pay my bills, I would do everything just to avoid doing it. Until eventually I came to some ideas, and one of them was, if I'm not making amends, I'm actually being really selfish. By not owning up to my contribution to society, by not keeping my side of the street clean, but not holding myself accountable, those are all selfish things. And they're incredibly challenging to live with, like in a stressful wise. In a previous episode, we talked about stress, like building it up and holding on to it, how it doesn't serve us, it doesn't serve others, it doesn't serve the greater good. But yet, sure enough, I do it all the time. So if I'm building up my resentments, if I'm stacking them and layering it on, how is that helping me? It's not. In fact, how stress manifests itself in each person's life is different. How we manage that stress is also different. That can come in the form of alcoholism or drinking or food. Some people do that. Other people go to the gym too much. It's crazy how much stress can build up. And where does stress come from? What is the source of that stress? What are some things that can trigger us? These are all different episodes we've talked about. I'm not going to get too much into this, and I know this could be a whole show by itself, but just fast forwarding through those steps, getting to that point where making amends is one of the hardest things, but coming to the idea that amends is the right thing to do is a hurdle in itself. Yes, all those situations, the stressful situations lead to stress, causing triggers, hitting rock bottom. Again, all of those things are not helping us, helping others, doesn't help the greater good. And yet, those are the excuses that I was telling myself for the longest time. I was not letting myself live stress-free. I was holding on to these resentments when it wasn't serving me, and I wasn't serving the greater good. I wasn't serving my friends, my family, my coworkers, none of that. So I talked about how not making amends can be selfish, and that was a key part there. Sorry guys, if you're just joining me, I apologize. I just jumped right into it. I'm having a lot of fun with this stream. I'm trying something different. I'm going live with my phone instead of on the computer. I'm trying to see if I can use this Facebook creator system. It's an app, and it's letting me have this overlay, which is kind of fun at the bottom. Anyway, if you're new here, my name is Jason. This is the Outstanding Life Show. We talk about every week everything that's related to alcoholism, recovery. This show is mainly built for those who have made the decision that this is the kind of life they want to live. The purpose of the show is not to convince you to do something or not to do anything. The main thing is that if you've made a choice and that this is a life you want to live, then this show is for you. It's a pretty fun environment. I try and make it an exciting show. I try to bring up topics that you guys bring to me. You guys message me every week. I love all your comments. Thank you for saying hello. I see some comments coming through. I'm going to jump into them pretty quick. But if you're watching this, I just want to say thank you. So if you want to get how do I say this? If you like what we're talking about and you want to know more, or if you want a reminder about what we're talking about, type show in the comments and we'll have a message sent out to you. We'll send a Facebook message to you just before we go live. That's what I was doing at the beginning of the show. I had to hit live on my phone and then I had to run over to the computer and send the message out. It was like 2 steps. It was really awkward, but I'm having fun. I'm learning a lot about this using the Facebook app to go stream versus the Creator app. Okay, so what are we talking about today? Today we're talking about making amends, and we're talking about all the different aspects that can lead up to it. We're not really going to jump into like how to manage the stress. This show's topic is focused on just the amends in itself. So we've discussed about the selfishness about not making amends and how not holding myself accountable can deprive the world. Like the world deserves the best version of ourselves. The world deserves the best version of me. And if I'm holding myself back, if I'm holding on to these resentments, negativity, frustration, I'm not improving myself. I'm not growing. And if I'm not appreciative, then I'm not able to be in a state where I'm grateful. And if I'm just focused on the negative, how am I going to grow beyond it? How am I going to fill my life with the amazing things, the amazing relationships, friendships, like culture? These are all things that everybody craves and deserves. But if I'm choosing to focus on the worst parts of it, then how am I going to live this outstanding life? The whole name of the show is Outstanding Life. Okay, so by keeping my side of the street clean, I'm able to remove that anxiousness from me. If I own up to my side of the bargain, I'm able to keep clear of that anxiety. that anxiety that builds up in me, and I'm saying this because I know it happens to me, if I hold on to things, I'm not letting myself move forward. I'm not letting myself have that sense of abundance or that belief that there's good things out there. Side comment, one of the hardest things for me to actually get through was the idea that it could hold me back, that this belief of that I wasn't deserving of good things. And that held me back for a long time. Like this misconception of I will never be able to accomplish these things because of I'm an alcoholic or I'm an addict or I don't deserve to have all these aspects in my life. And so that belief steered me clear of so many great connections, relationships, positive outlook. And I rounded down for so long that I had believed that that's all my life was ever worth, which is crazy, but it happens every day. Okay, so by removing that anxiety, by removing that anxiousness, it stops me from living this outstanding life and this full potential. If I'm connecting with others in a way that's supportive, encouraging, and safe, that then I'm able to help build that community or build that relationship or that solid foundation that I'm looking for. We had another show where we talked about community, but I do want to highlight, and I think actually my friend Elise is just mentioning how to ease making amends when you know it will hurt the receiver. And that's an important topic, Elise, and I want to say thank you for bringing that forward. That's actually a really important topic. One of the aspects of the recovery step is to make amends with others when it's safe to do so. Not so much just safe for you, but it's also safe for them. There are some people who, in my life, who I'm able to make connections with and follow up with and apologize and own up to it. But there are some people in my life who, if I were to make a connection in their life and make that same apology or same own up to that part, it would actually cause harm either to them or myself. So it is important to have safety number one. Every episode we have a safety moment, and this week's safety moment will be to make amends, yes, but only when it's safe to do so. Not only safe for you, but also safe for the receiver. There is a spot where you will need to identify what the safety look like. I don't know if that makes sense, Elise. Let me know in the comments if you like what I'm saying or if you have different opinions. Feel free to share. I really look forward to hearing what your thoughts are on that. So thank you for bringing that forward. Okay, moving on this. We talked about the anxiousness of not keeping your side of the street clean by not owning up to it, and by choosing to hold on to things, it doesn't allow me to grow. Okay, and by making amends, it's weird. I can feel like if I have an idea where if I believe that tomorrow morning I'm going to wake up and go to the gym, I'm going to feel good about making the decision, but I'm not going to feel nearly as good until after I finish my workout. By making a list of people that I'm going to need to make amends with, I can feel good in believing that I'm going to clean that up, that I'm going to make it all right. Or making the list is one thing, but following through and actually making those connections, actually following through with it, it's rewarding. There's a sense of catharticism that comes from it. That's a cathartic healing where, yes, there might have been frustration, resentment, negativity leading up to that resentment. We had another show on resentment as well, but focusing on making the amends part, there's two parts of every equation. Like there's two halves of everything. Like if we're talking about a relationship, there's two sides of that. And it's not meant to say by me owning up to my side of the relationship, by saying, hey, you know what, my mindset in our relationship wasn't the best. I apologize for leading up to that. Any component that I had, if I made a situation that wasn't the best, if I made poor decisions or if I wasn't supportive, or by owning up to my side of that equation, by keeping my side of the street clean, that doesn't guarantee that I'm going to get an apology back. But at least in my heart of hearts, that I know I've done my part, then in the 10 seconds before I fall asleep, I know I felt good. And that sense of accomplishment, like, it's weird when you go to the grocery store and you have a list of all the things and you check off everything in that grocery list, you feel good. And when you make a list of all the people you've harmed, and when you start making amends with them, the first list I ever made was the hardest thing I ever had to do. The second hardest thing was actually making amends with them. But it doesn't just stop there. It's the idea of having that ability to make a list of those I had harmed and then following through with it. So it's not something that one day I'm going to do. It's something that I'm going to have to be doing every day. It's something I'm going to be doing all the time. Before I went to rehab, before I admitted that there was an issue, before I had a problem, I just thought the world was against me. I thought, none of my relationships worked out. I never really held a stable career. I never really moved forward in my health. I wasn't full of gratitude. These are all things that I believed were happening to me. And it wasn't until I went into believe in this higher power, that there was something bigger than myself, and that I had control and I had ability and I had say in how my life turns out, that I could choose the kind of people I want in my life, and I could have a higher standard, not just for myself, but for the people that I'm surrounding myself with, that I'm associating with. And when I started making my amends, when I started working my way through the list, I started to appreciate, hold on, these are, who I was when I made these mistakes isn't the same person that I am now. Because when I make that list, that's I don't want to say that's past Jason, because that's still me. But what I can say is, by going through that exercise of making the amends, of connecting with them and following up, even in having the idea that I'm going to make amends with them, I start to appreciate the qualities of who I was at that time, about the kind of beliefs I had at that time, and what I will no longer tolerate now, the kind of beliefs I have now, the kind of commitment and drive and passion that I have now. These are not the same things as who I was when I was, like, not making the list, but when I was making those mistakes. And so having those ideas and going through the exercise can be rewarding, because it helps shape the person I am now by saying, you know what, I'm not going to tolerate being treated like crap. So if I was in a relationship that wasn't rewarding, should I be upset that I'm not in that relationship anymore? No. But what I can say is, hey, you know what, to that person, I probably wasn't the best person for you, and I'm sorry. Like, hey, you know what, I made mistakes. You're human. I'm human. You're cool. I'm cool. We're just not cool together. There's no harm in that. But there's a lot of good in that, though. I don't know how to say that any other way, but there's a lot of good that can come from amends. Again, like Elise says, it's got to be safe for you and safe for them. And if you need a minute, if you need a day, you need 20, you need a month, you need 20 to clear, make sure that you're in a spot where that is that's the reason for the connection. You're not there for any other reason. You're not there to get something. You're not there to go and give something. You're just there to clear that, keep your side of the street clean. Okay, so we talked about making amends and how we can feel centered and appreciative, and how we can't grow. Like, if I'm of the mindset that resentment, like if I'm of the mindset that anger, frustration, resentment, negativity, if these are all things that I'm holding on to, I don't have any room for growth. I don't have any room for developing healthy habits, a healthy mind. I'm not allowing other things to enter if I'm letting the space take up too much than it needs. And resentment can, if left unchecked, that can bring the whole thing down. I mean, the kind of person that watches this show doesn't want to harbor any resentments. Nobody wants to choose to be angry. Nobody likes being unhappy. People want to be loved. People want to give love. And if that works for you in a relationship, then perfect. If that's not working for you, and you have different mindsets, different goals, different desires, different passions, and you find that you're in a relationship with somebody, is it the right thing to do to end the relationship? Well, it probably is. If you have friendships that are not adding value and they're not conducive to your mindset, your new wave of life, then maybe it's time to get a different community. We had a whole topic on this on the community episode. I think it was about a month ago. If you guys want to learn more about that, please go check out one of the other videos. Okay, so I want to move forward. But before I do, I just noticed that if you're new here, if you're just joining us for the first time, my name is Jason. This is the Outstanding Life Show. I'm trying something different with Facebook Live. I'm using my phone instead of using the computer. I want to see if it's getting a different outcome or different result. I've got a little funny little overlay down below where it's got my name. That's really cool. And this actually gives me the ability to be able to use my phone out and about and still get the same experience. So I'm pretty stoked about that. If you like what we're talking about recovery, alcoholism, addiction, overcoming these challenges in life. And yet, if you like what we're chatting about and you want to know more, type show in the comments, and then we'll have a Facebook message sent out to you the next time we go live. I send out a message every weekend. I try and get one message out to you every week. But if you want to join us for more, feel free to join us every weekend. Like the page, put the hearts and the stars. We'll reach out to you eventually. Okay, so we're talking about making amends. And when it comes to making amends, I want to mention that one of my, who was it? Like, you remember the Disney, the Frozen, where she sings like "Let It Go"? That's exactly what this is. So if we're living a healthy life, if we have a healthy mindset, we're letting ourselves let go of the resentment, let go of the negativity, just move forward, move on. There's no benefit to holding on to these things. This isn't a resentment build episode. We did have a whole other show about resentments, but this one is about making amends. And I'm not able to make amends if I'm holding on to that resentment. That's how those two are connected. So if I'm willing to let go of the resentment, I'm entertaining the idea that I can make amends when it's safe to do so. Okay, and if I'm letting go, I'm also telling myself that it's okay to make amends. It's okay to forgive. And forgiveness is huge. It's okay to forgive the other person. So in the relationship example I had earlier, so if I were to say, I forgive you, we also have to take the time to forgive ourselves. So not just what we've gone through, like what we added to the equation, but also forgive what the other person did. I don't want to say because for them, but also for you. Like I had to, the longest time it took me to forgive myself as well as to forgive the other person. It probably took a lot longer than it needed to. But again, I'm human. I'm working on myself. I'm trying to become a better person. But nonetheless, it's okay to forgive yourself and it's okay to forgive others. But that only comes from letting go, entertaining the ability to make amends, and then actually following through with it. Those are two totally different things, but they're super important. Okay, and if you do offer an apology, like if you actually do go through the amends process, it's okay to offer the apology, and it's okay, it's going to sound weird, it's okay to not get an apology back. It's okay to keep your side of the street clean, and if the other person does as well, great. If they don't, then again, you didn't go there to make amends, to get something out of them, to get something back. You were there just to cross that item off your list, so that you let them know that, hey, you know what? I wanted to reach out to you to say I'm sorry, and then that was the end of it. I wasn't there to go and get something from them. If I was trying to go and get something from them, then that tells me I wasn't ready, that I wasn't in a position to offer an amends if I was trying to get something out of them, which that's dishonesty there. But again, it's okay to forgive others and it's okay to forgive yourself. All right. This includes being a bigger person. Sometimes if you're the person to first offer an apology, that takes swallowing your pride, swallowing ego. In the recovery alcohol space, ego is a big thing. Ego doesn't need to be a big thing, but as an addict, as someone that's in recovery, I had let ego get out of control. Maybe that'll be an episode in the future. We'll dive down deeper into the ego, but it's crazy. Ego will cause me to not look past my circumstances. Ego will tell me that this is all I'm worth. That ego will tell me that this person owes me an apology. Ego will not let me see past my circumstances, ego won't let me appreciate that I also contributed to the equation for them to be upset. Ego won't let me see beyond that. And one of the hardest things to do is to dismantle that foundation that ego has built and to allow that gratitude to creep in, to allow that gratitude to take over. And the crazy part is I know, like, we had a whole other episode on gratitude, but ego in itself it's like, it doesn't serve any person. It doesn't serve the greater good. It doesn't serve myself. It doesn't serve others. I mean, ego has a time and place, but it doesn't need to make decisions for you. It doesn't need to make decisions for me. Okay, my sobriety means more to me than my ego. And that was hard. Like, that, just coming to that idea, just letting go of ego, just so I can have my sobriety, just so I can have my sanity, was huge. So being able to let go of a situation, let go of the circumstance, move forward, move on, move upwards. Nobody wants to hold on to these kinds of things. Nobody wants to choose a negative life. Nobody wants to live a life that's full of resentment, alcoholism, substance abuse. That doesn't do anything. I mean, it makes me feel sad. Like, if I don't let go, I'm not going to grow. That's the gist of it. So if I don't let go, I'm never going to grow. And resentment it only holds me down. Whereas gratitude, appreciation, forgiveness, making amends, all of that not only sets me free, but it also lets the other party know, hey, you know what? I'm at a spot where things are different. I'm at a spot where I'm like, one thing can be, I can tell you something, like I can just tell you, if I were to tell you, like, oh, I'm a good person, that only goes so far. I have to actually demonstrate that good quality. I have to demonstrate that I've actually made improvement. I have to prove that this is the new me. Because if I am the new person, then I'm going to need to follow through with that. The person that did those past actions that caused this resentment, caused this scenario, that person is still here. Unless I've chosen to do different things, unless I've made different actions. That's where I think the idea comes from, making the list that I said at the beginning. First thing I did when I went to rehab, make a list of all the people I had harmed. It took me forever. It took me 3 weeks. 3 weeks to make this list. And then after I made that list, I had to go through and make it again just because I had to write down all the people I had harmed. But then afterwards, I started making amends. And that took me the other 6 weeks. I was in rehab for like 9 weeks. 9 weeks. That was insane. So who I was at the beginning of the process wasn't who I was at the end of the process. Again, it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. There's no one answer that solves it for you, that solves it for me. The same stressors for you are not the same stressors for me. But the one thing that can help bring us together is that gratitude, is the making amends. It's letting go of resentment, believing in something bigger than ourselves, believing in something that's bigger than my ego. That's crazy. Until you reach that spot, until I got to that point, up until then, everything it seemed crazy. It seemed foreign. It seemed ominous, and it didn't make sense. And then once it hit me, I started to realize, hey, you know what? There is a better life out there, and I am deserving of it. And these people that I have in my life now, they're adding value, and I can add value back. And here's how I can do it. By making amends, by keeping my side of the street clean, holding myself accountable, by contributing every day. Those are all things that add value. Okay. My name is Jason. This is the Outstanding Life Show. Thanks so much for watching. I wanted to go and check on the comments, see who else is here. I can see there's quite a few people jumping in and out of the stream. That's actually really fun. If you like what we're talking about today, we're talking about making amends. We're talking about keeping our side of the street clean. If you like what we're chatting about, type show in the comments. We'll have a message sent out to you. If you're watching the replay, that's okay too. You can still type show in the comments and we'll still have a message sent out to you. It's crazy what Facebook can do nowadays. It's actually really awesome. I'm trying something new with this stream. I'm using my phone, and the phone is allowing me to send this out to you. I have a little overlay down below with my name on it. This is the Outstanding Life Show. My name is Jason. We talk about recovery. We talk about alcoholism. substance abuse, overcoming challenges. If you like what we're chatting about, again, type show in the comments. We'll get a message sent out to you. I go live every weekend. This one I'm doing something different, but I want to say thank you for joining me. Let's keep going. We talked about making amends. We talked about keeping our side of the street clean. We talked about how negativity, how ego can ruin everything. One thing I haven't chatted about yet is everybody loves making friends. Everybody loves having relationships, and making friends are things that are good. They're all like just making genuine connections are always awesome. But if I find myself in a position where I'm constantly making amends, like if I'm enjoying making all the connections, going through a string of relationships, and yet I'm always making amends, one of those things can change. Like, sure, I could just change the people I'm surrounding myself with, or I could change the person that's finding themselves in a situation where they're always making amends. Making that list of all the people that I'd harmed in the heat of my addiction, in the recovery, as I embraced recovery, it causes me to go through the exercise of qualifying what I will no longer tolerate. Like, I won't tolerate not being treated fairly. I won't tolerate a certain level of gratitude. I won't tolerate a certain level of appreciation or value, not only from others, but also from myself. Like, I have to hold myself to a higher standard. I have to hold my friends to a higher standard. And if I'm not able to do that with my existing friends, with my existing support group, then maybe I need a support group. Maybe I need a new batch of friends. Maybe I need a higher quality standard for me to hold myself to. Because if all I'm ever doing is running around making amends, then is that their fault or is that mine? Because I'm also contributing to this. I'm contributing to the relationships that are falling apart. I'm also contributing to the friendships that are not going anywhere. And that was a hard decision for me to make. One of the things I had to do is, I remember I went and I said, you know what? I'm just going to start over again. I deleted my phone, deleted my Facebook, and I started fresh. And I said, I'm going to make a new stand. This is a new day. This is a new Jason. And that's when I started going live. Well, no, that's when I started posting on Facebook a lot more. And I noticed the more I posted on Facebook, I would post these positive messages and I'd put a positive spin on it when it comes to recovery. And the messages I got positive responses on the most were like the milestone birthdays. I just realized that today's the 25th of August. That's crazy. Do you know what today is? Today is my birthday. It's my 5 years and 10 months. So I've been sober for 5 years and 10 months exactly. In 2 months, in 60 days, guys, I will be 6 years sober. 6! I'll still be a toddler, but still, I'll be 6. This is going to be fun. I didn't realize today was a birthday. But I'm getting a lot of positive responses when it comes to the celebration messages. And that's what motivated me to want to get this out there, to share this message. And that was the reason why I started this show. Because there's a lot of great conversation that we have. There's a lot of messages that you guys send me. There's a lot of hearts and stars you guys put in the comments. That's awesome. I know that making amends isn't always easy. And I know that if I could share something to past Jason is, you're going to mess up. You're human. I'm going to mess up. And I'm probably still going to mess up in the future. But it doesn't want to stop me from living life. That's not going to want to stop me from moving forward. That's not going to stop me from just saying, hey, you know what? If I'm holding myself accountable, there's nothing wrong with making amends. There's nothing wrong with saying I'm sorry. There's nothing wrong with apologizing for when I need to make an apology. I think that was the one key thing. Selfish Jason will only apologize when I have to. But on the other hand, the grateful Jason will apologize and make amends because it's the right thing to do. And again, this is where ego comes in. If ego's making the decision, ego's only going to apologize right when it needs to. But if it's gratitude that's present and living my life in every day, if I'm living a grateful life, an outstanding life, then I'm going to make amends when it needs to happen. Holding on to things isn't going to serve me. It doesn't serve others. It doesn't serve the greater good. But if I'm full of gratitude, it does serve me, it does serve others, and it does serve the greater good. That includes making amends. So when I start holding myself accountable, when I start making a list, it's always the hardest thing to do. Making those connections and apologizing, those are also really hard. Again, it's important to make those connections to make those amends when it's safe to do so. The idea is that it doesn't get any easier when I start working my way through that list. Making amends, it just makes you stronger, because then you start to qualify what you'll tolerate, what you'll no longer tolerate, what kind of person you are, what kind of people you want in your life. Okay, so we've gone through quite a few things today. So the first list was hard, but making the second list, it's always something you're going to do. It's always an evolving process. Like, I'm never done making a list, but in retrospect, one of the things I started to do more often is to focus, not only have like a list of amends I have to make, but I also have a gratitude list. So a list that I use and make where I let that also grow so that I have something to focus on. So I'm choosing to surround myself with a lot more positivity, where I'm choosing to have a lot more like encouragement. I'm having a lot more support. I'm having to choose to have a lot more nice things. I'm not choosing to surround myself with negativity, angst, frustration, resentment. These are things that I can do without. But I choose to surround myself more with gratitude by living a life that comes from that place, rather than living my life in fear and resentment and holding on to these things doesn't let me grow. Okay, so if I choose to not grow, if I choose to hold on to the resentments, I'm also choosing to give up time. Like, I'm choosing to be angry, I'm choosing to be upset, frustrated, all these negative things. And so unless I make the association in my head that if I don't make the amend, if I don't keep my side of the street clean, that's going to cost me later. That's going to cost me time. That's going to cost me effort. That's going to cost me growth. And that kind of stuff compounds, just like money. Like, if you have money and you compound the interest over and over and over and over again, eventually that just skyrockets over time. Same thing with love, appreciation, and gratitude. So if I'm holding on to resentment, if I'm holding on to if I'm not making amends, I'm not allowing myself to grow. And if I'm choosing not to grow, I'm shrinking. And if I hold on to that shrinkage, over time, that amount of shrinkage, when I could have been growing, compounds on itself. I could be way more happier. I could be way more fulfilled. I could be way more grateful. I would have a lot more appreciation for this world, rather than just choosing to. If I walk around and I see the world as, if I see 365 degrees of mirrors, if you see the world as if it were mirrors, and if I look at the world and I say, hey, I see parts that are negative out there, in reality, I'm actually noticing negative parts about myself. And if I'm choosing to view the world as these negative interactions, that's all I'm ever going to point out in myself. These times I haven't hit the mark, these times I've let people down, these times I've chosen a different path than I should have. But in doing so, it doesn't help others. It doesn't help the greater good. It doesn't help myself. It doesn't serve any of them. But yet I'm choosing to live that life over and over and over again. Insanity is the definition of doing the same thing over and over and hoping to get a different result. So if I choose to not grow, and if I choose to shrink, that's costing me happiness. It's almost like a sponge, where if I squeeze it too tight and I view that world as 365 degrees of mirrors and I see all this negativity, what if in that same moment I were to be filled with gratitude? What if in that same moment I was to be filled with appreciation, positivity, light? These sound crazy, but if I were to notice aspects of myself and other people That would help me identify with them first. And if I can identify with them, if I can identify with somebody before I label them or dismiss them, that allows me to develop a connection with them. And the more connections I'm making, the more relationships I'm building, the less angst I'm holding on to, the more positive foundation I'm building, the more quality relationships I'm forming, the less resentments I'm holding on to, the less amends I'm having to make. This is where everything is folding back on itself. So if I choose to live this life of great gratitude, if I'm choosing to live an outstanding life, that includes holding myself accountable. That includes doing the right thing, saying I'm sorry when I need to, cutting things off when it needs to stop, ending friendships and relationships where they're not serving anyone. You know, maybe these are hard conversations to have. But again, today's safety moment is to do so when it's safe for you. Don't just do it because it's on your list. Make sure if you're connecting with others and you're making that amends, that it's safe for them and it's safe for you. Don't go and offer an apology if you're expecting to get something out of it, because that's not a true apology then. Again, you can't control the other person, but you can keep your side of the street clean. I can own up to my part by saying, hey, you know what, I'm sorry, I apologize. I wasn't the right fit, I wasn't the right mindset, I wasn't in the right headspace for what we were trying to do with what we're trying to grow. I wasn't the proper person that you needed, and I'm sorry. There's nothing wrong with owning up to it. Even if they don't, it doesn't matter. That's not on you. But that shouldn't stop you. Because that, in the 10 seconds before you fall asleep, you'll feel better. But if you don't make amends, you're just going to hold on to that. And then we talked about resentment and what can happen and how much that compounds. It doesn't serve anything. Okay, so we talked about the benefits of being grateful. We talked about not focusing on ego, not seeing the small stuff. We've talked about quite a bit so far. Holy cow. I can't believe we've gone through quite a bit here. We talked about being a better person, bigger person. Let me know what you guys think. Like, what do you, am I totally wrong on all this? Are you enjoying the conversation? If you like what we do, leave a comment down below. Say hello. Let me know where you're from. If you want a reminder about the show when we go live, type show in the comments. If you like it, give a heart, like, subscribe, all the fun things. If you want a Facebook message when we go live, just type show in the comments. Again, if you're watching the replay, hello, we love you. Thanks for hanging out. This is the Outstanding Life Show. My name is Jason. I'm going live from my phone just to see if anything is different. I'm enjoying the experience so far. If you like this stream compared to my other streams, let me know. If you notice things are different or you want things to be changed, again, let me know. Shoot me a message, say hello in the comments. Again, I love all you people. Take care, and I'll see you next weekend. Bye, everybody.